Welcome to Running on Ice, the coolest community in freight. I'm your host, Mary O'Connell, bringing you the latest tech updates, warehouse news, and everything happening in the cold chain world. Not only is there the coolest show in freight, but there's also Running on Ice, a newsletter that could not be colder. You can subscribe to that on FreightWaves.com/runningonIce. Today, we welcome Brendan Riley, the President and Director at Green Power. Welcome to the show, Brendan.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I am excited about today because this is, to my knowledge, I think the first all-electric medium-duty temperature-controlled truck in the U.S., and I'm excited to dive into it today. Is that right? Is it the first one?
It's the first one that runs off a high voltage, off the battery voltage. So it's the first one that actually runs off of a battery. It's only for an EV. It's not for an internal combustion vehicle that would run off a low voltage battery.
I love it, and I'm excited to get into it. Before we get too far into that, though, let's get some background on you and kind of how you got started at Green Power.
Again, Brendan Riley. I'm the president of Green Power Motor Company. Previous to this, I was a VP at BYD. I was the first North American employee of BYD Motors, and I was hired to build up all their commercial truck, bus, material handling, all their various divisions. And I did everything at BYD, from hiring salespeople, engineers, product road mapping, buying of the factories, or arranging for the purchase of the factories, building those out, and setting up the footprint in the U.S. And then in 2016, I was recruited by Green Power to come over to this company and launch a product that I'd been very interested in for many years, which was a medium-duty truck, but more importantly, the school bus, which was really my passion to make a all-battery electric school bus.
Do you guys have a fully battery electric school bus?
Our truck chassis, our Class 4 truck chassis we use for our little school bus, the Type A, the shorter bus. And then the big bus, we call it the Beast, which seats up to 90 students. That one is based on our platform that we developed from scratch.
That is insanely cool. And I don't think I knew that there was all electric school buses. I love it. And I want to put it at the school district that I live in, but I have no control over that. So, but I think that's so cool. But I guess that just kind of blew me away. That's so cool. But earlier this month, you guys had announced the new electric medium duty truck, the Reefer X. Do you mind kind of hitting us with the highlights of that and kind of what it's and why it's kind of, I don't know, in my opinion, one of the most innovative things that have come out of the electric temperature controlled space for a while?
So a few things about it. And the reason why it's important that it runs off a high voltage is that typically with all electric reefer trucks these days, and they make all electric ones that just go on regular internal combustion vehicles, but those take 12 volts from your car's battery, low voltage battery system. And then they send that a lot of current all the way over to the reefer, and then they step it up to high voltage and do a whole bunch of other stuff. Makes it really inefficient, and more expensive and heavier. And in EVs, we're trying to pull out expense wherever we can and weight wherever we can. Those are the two biggest drivers in our space. So we, don't increase the price gap for ICE. We start diminishing that. So with the Reefer X, the first part is the refrigerator on there. We've got multi-zone refrigerators on there that can do freezing, refrigerator temperatures, and room temperature all in the same unit, all fully temperature controlled. And then we can do that at a 20% greater efficiency at about a 20% lower price and have a longer lasting unit because it's all running at high voltage. The temperatures of the internal workings of the thing are lower, and it's just a more efficient unit all in all. As far as the other benefits of the Reefer X, it has a body. So Green Power also owns a body company called GP Truck Body. And we developed originally a reefer unit made the way we've been building reefer units in this country for years, where you build a box for the back of the truck. It looks like they call it a dry freight box, but it's like a box truck box. And then what you do is you actually foam the inside of it. You spray foam on it. Then you grind down all this foam to get it all nice, flat, and in the proper dimensions. And then you put on the lining material, which is typically an FDA grade lining, so you can hose it down and disinfect it the way you would, similar to like your refrigerator, inside of your refrigerator. Well, that foaming process was not only extremely, time consuming to build. It wasn't really as high a quality as you could get. You couldn't get the thicknesses exactly right. The tolerances weren't the same. So we've developed a made out of recycled and even recyclable material, a unit that has only 4 big parts. So if you think of instead of putting together all the skeleton, what have you, the walls are actually one piece. So there's no seams on them. They go together. They can flat pack and ship across the country to be assembled anywhere in the U.S. very easily by one of our dealers or another body company. So this whole unit not only costs less by a good amount, it has better insulation. It's got a longer life, a longer warranty, and it weighs the whole thing weighs about 20% less than a regular box truck. So it's compelling on all those levels.
Those are some big levels because it's lighter. You can put, in theory, you can put more weight in there. You can control the temperature, and you can just, blast it with a power washer to clean it out completely and not have to worry about something getting caught in the seams of a panel and contaminating an entire load. When you say that you can have like the 3 different zones or like the 3 different temperatures, like frozen, refrigerated, and dry and room temperature, can you have that all running at the same time in the unit, or is it just per shipment?
No, you'd have 3 different compartments typically. So per shipment, you just turn it off to have a room temperature one. You could almost turn any freezer unit into 3 temperatures. But for us, you can have 3 different zones in the same truck on the same shipment, or maybe going to different customers. And you could bring in, seafood really cold. You could bring in lettuce and produce, which might not want to be as cold. And then room temperature goods, canned goods, whatever, box goods, and that. So you could theoretically, if I were like a grocery store or even a food distribution house that really made the deliveries of all these different types of products delivered at different temperatures, it would be one shot, deliver them all.
Well, because I'm thinking like if I am like a Cisco or like a food supplier for restaurants, you're gonna have your meats or your things that are gonna be frozen, and nobody wants frozen lettuce because that's just disgusting and texturally uncomfortable. But then you can also have like your pasta, so you don't have to have like different trucks or things getting exposed to different temperatures. It just all shows up on one. And as a restaurateur, I'd be like, this is amazing. I have all of my product here and at the quality I expect it to be. And that feels like a game changer to me, to like, expect like specific, I'm sure there's more applications, but specifically on the food service side, it seems kind of like a no brainer. Cause also a lot of those delivery routes are shorter and they are kind of more local deliveries. So you can easily get back to charge. It's not like you're trying to go 800 miles off of a charge.
Exactly. And our medium duty vehicle supports are the platform that we build the Reefer X on, which is our EV Star platform. It has a very high payload for its type, but it's still an EV. So it's the payload, including the boxes, or without the box, is 7,000 pounds. With the box, it can be as much as 6,000 pounds, maybe, and typically 5,500 pound payload. So that should give you enough payload to make a medium mile, mid-mile, or local delivery to, like you said, a restaurant, a small deli, or grocery store, what have you. Typically the really big loads come in a big rig, which we don't make, and we don't make the big tractor trailers. So if you're like a huge, big box store, you've got truckloads coming in all the time. They don't really need something like what we've got. But if you're making home delivery or you're making any sort of delivery to, a smaller operation, that's what this is designed for.
Yeah, I'm thinking about all of like the perishable e-commerce type things that just has to go from like a warehouse to somebody's front door. I think that that is absolutely fantastic and I love it. What kind of made you guys say, okay, yes, we want to make an all electric, like multi-zone like a reefer situation? Like what made you guys say this is where we want to invest our time, effort, and future versus, something else?
So I'd been making, we make a lot of different trucks and truck bodies. So this is one of the vocations or applications that we have. The refrigerated market's always been to me has always been a very attractive space because for EVs, those typically don't go very far. You don't require all the range. They often make deliveries that lend themselves perfectly to our product. When years ago at BYD, I made a Class 5 refrigerated delivery vehicle, but it used a low voltage refrigerator and did not have very good efficiencies there because everything was running off of 12 volts, and I had to have extra low voltage battery banks and all kinds of goofy things. This unit really allows us to cut out this weird step in the operation of, going from low voltage back to high voltage and all that stuff. So when the technology presented itself that we could now really produce an efficient high voltage unit that runs off of the high voltage batteries only, directly off the high voltage battery system, where you've got no idle emissions, the vehicle parked, it's always staying cold, it doesn't have to operate the internal combustion engine. For me, it's a very compelling case also for environmental impact, not just for efficiencies and costs.
I mean, personally, I'm a sucker for things that are have that environmental side of things because, as a sustainability girly, it's nice that there are things out there that are, making the planet better, removing carbon emissions, decreasing carbon emissions. I love that aspect of it, and I like that you guys kind of saw that opportunity and said, yes, this is the future that we want to invest in because, one, I would like the planet to still be here, and two, like you said, cold, like temperature controlled space, it's really starting to pop off in a big way, in my very humble opinion. And I think this is kind of the perfect solution for a lot of those things that we haven't even realized have a problem yet or have consistent issues. I think it's a really it's just like a perfect solution. So thank you guys for coming up with it.
You're very welcome.
I guess you've mentioned that there are those the walls are all one panel. I had visions of like you get the thing delivered and like, you have to build it like IKEA instructions. I'm very glad that there's a dealer that builds them and is trained to do them. We all I mean I know my way around some IKEA instructions, but I wouldn't want to trust an entire vehicle to that. I can make a bookcase work, not exactly a entire vehicle.
It's very funny you said that IKEA because it is similar to the way you put together IKEA. But typically you wouldn't have an end user build a body. They would go to somebody who's certified or accredited to build a body. But you're not far off with that concept because IKEA's key to their business is not just having furniture that's not built up yet, but how do you transport and warehouse this furniture? How can they hold so much of this furniture that theoretically would take up a lot of space? Because the IKEA model is about shipping things in a very small package so that they can be assembled later because it's the volume that's the problem, all this additional space. One of the biggest costs that we have been struggling with as far as a rising cost is transportation of the vehicle anywhere in the country. And when you've got a refrigerated van or truck that's fully built up, it's often over height. So it can cost, interestingly enough, because we transport these things on like a flat trailer or flatbed type vehicle, it can cost as much as $20,000 with the overheight permits to ship a fully built up unit across the country. So now with this being able to be flat packed almost down like an IKEA system and then sent across the country where we don't have this overheight, it cuts that cost by more than 2/3.
Oh, I would imagine because you don't have to get a specific, you don't have to get a low boy flatbed or any, like, you don't have to get all those specialized things that the more specialized you get, just keep adding zeros behind that number of how much it costs to transport it. And I love that this is part of that solution because like you said, you don't have to, you can also ship more when you do this because you don't have to have like one truck sitting there and you pay for that to go. You can put a couple on there or you can do more and you can get away with more because it is so small, so much smaller and compact. And I love that that was something you guys took into mind or took into consideration because honestly, I don't know that anyone else has done that with any sort of medium duty or even small truck. I absolutely love it. I'm looking forward to foldable school buses next.
We'll see.
So, from the solid panels and everything like that, have you guys is there that option for that customer customization? Like if they want something specific or if they need super extra insulation or something like that, is there kind of that customization or the different zones that you guys have put in there? Has that really kind of solved a lot of those customization needs that a customer would typically request?
The units are very customized. Every one is its own order. So basically, unlike IKEA, where you've got only a few choices and you got to get what they've got in stock, with the reefer trucks, there's different dimensions internal. Like you said, there's going to be different temperatures, so we have different thicknesses of the wall. There's also, the refrigeration unit can be set up differently to be a split unit or an all-in-one unit. So a multi-zone unit would have multiple evaporators inside the vehicle that actually put out different temperatures of cold. And the other thing is that, typically people that are in the business of delivering goods, they've already got in their mind a model that works for them to deliver. Like, let's say you're a seafood person and you're going down to the port to pick up seafood. You need to have a provision to pick up pallets and have palletized seafood because it's coming off a ship or something. That would be an entirely different application than somebody with a delicatessen that's getting salamis and prosciuttos and their frozen goods and some of their room temperature goods. So they're all customized. We would flat pack a customized solution per the customer order. And then we could either build it ourselves at our own truck body facility or build it ourselves at our West Virginia factory on the East Coast, or any dealer that has or body company that has the ability to do final stage manufacturing. They can assemble what we send them with, hopefully are simpler to follow than the IKEA instructions.
I don't understand why everyone struggles with IKEA instructions. It's just pictures. But I mean, I do have to confess, I did work at IKEA for 3 years, so I can build a lot of it without the actual pictures. It's a very unique skill that my friends like to take advantage of. But I guess so. There's all this customization that happens, which is insane. I mean, and insane in like a good way. That like basically, as a shipper, I could just say I want all of this, and you're like, say less. Here you go. Do you want us to assemble it, or do you just want to find the guy down the street who can do this to do it? And I love that. I love that customization and the accessibility of it. It's tens across the board for me. But what industries do you think are kind of the most excited for this to happen? So obviously food makes like the food service makes a huge sense for it. And I'm sure they're all jazzed for it. Are there any other kind of industries that maybe you're hoping that are excited for it or that have already shown a lot of interest, whether it's like pharma or fireworks, which I just learned were temperature controlled transported?
Yeah, I hope not to transport too many fireworks just because of the inherent risk. And they're temperature controlled because temperature can set off fireworks too. When I was growing up in Milwaukee, I had a friend whose family does fireworks. It's the Bartolotta family in Milwaukee, and they do fireworks for a large part. They're a restaurant family and they're a firework family, but they would and they make their own fireworks. They like build them up, and they would always have some member of the family getting injured from a firework accident. So it's inherently dangerous at almost any level. And I think shipping that would be. I don't know that it would be my druthers, but the food industry, of course, seafood and meats are probably the largest users. So seafood and meats typically are shipped with these smaller um, type vehicles very often. The other place I've seen, and pharma is a very good example of things that you didn't know, like, if Botox gets up to room temperature, it's only good for a couple days and then it's done. But you could put it in a refrigerated setting and it lasts a month, 6 months, what have you. That's a good example of some of the pharmaceuticals. There's also other industrial goods that have to be transported at lower temperatures. There are industrial goods, some adhesives and other things you need to keep at lower temperatures because once they get hot, they become despoiled. The the other application for this technology is, this is basically air conditioning technology. So if we're transporting, it's the same, this refrigeration thing, the same thing that we use in refrigerators. These units, we're working on actually making them hot instead of cold. So for things that can't freeze, we're actually, and if you've got a large mass and this thing's sitting out the back and it's getting transported around upstate New York in the middle of winter, you may need to warm this compartment very well. That's another application that we're looking at. So, heat and air conditioning are basically two different sides of the same coin. You've heard of heat pumps and other things. That's just an air conditioner, essentially running backwards. So those are some of the other applications we have.
I was gonna say, because I mean, if an LTL shipment can have protect from freeze, then obviously there's a demand for those things that keep things protected from freezing. One of the things I thought of is if I'm like, a major hospital network and I'm trying to send something from a warehouse to a hospital or whatever, I can have my ultra cold medicines, my refrigerated medicines, and then also like, my saline bags, my medical supplies, etc., all coming on one truck. And that way I don't have to send three separate trucks or have all these other things go around because I can just load it up on one, have all my different zones, and then it goes to where it needs to be. Because it doesn't really, because also it doesn't really matter if like hospital gowns get cold, they can just go on the truck, they'll be fine. But those ultra cold medicines and some of those hospital supplies, they can't get warm or they have to stay at a certain temperature. And I really like that. I really like this application for it. It kind of solves a lot of those problems of how do I not have four trucks running doing the same thing, but they're at different temperatures. I absolutely love that for this. Love this for that.
Agree totally.
All right, so we are running out of time today, but Brendan, there's a question that everyone comes on the show has to answer, and you, sir, are no exception. Could potentially be the hardest question you're going to get all day today. Are you ready for it?
I think so.
Is cereal considered a soup?
This is a question that's actually come into my mind, but it was, are milkshakes considered cold soups? So this is similar. I would say that cereal, if it's sitting out, like my kids, if they don't finish a bowl, pour too much milk, had too much, and it sits there for more than 5 minutes, I would definitely consider it soup. But I think when it's first poured, no.
That's fair. I will accept that answer. I'm a hard no person. But as everyone that listens to the show knows, I'm a monster that doesn't eat milk with my cereal. I just eat it dry. But also if I do put milk in, there's a very delicate balance of just enough milk to not make my cereal soggy. And I'm not a drink the milk at the end kind of person. But the milkshake though does bring a new element to this, because that is something I never thought of. Because then is a smoothie, like a fruit smoothie in the morning, is that just a cold soup?
This is opening up a lot of questions. That was a very good question. And, I'll have to get back to you on a full, complete answer, but very interesting.
It's going to take me down a weird rabbit hole this afternoon, but it's going to be okay. So, Brendan, if anyone wants to find you about and talk to you about your soup opinions or the new Reefer X, where can they find you outside the show?
Our website is www.greenpowermotor.com. Our products are listed on the website under the products. And my email, if anyone ever wants to reach out to me with questions, it's Brendan, Brendan, at greenpowermotor.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
You can catch other episodes of Running on Ice right here on FreightWaves TV, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Need more Running on Ice news? No sweat. Subscribe to the newsletter on freightwaves.com/runningonIce. See you on the internet.